This is a simple exercise in finding the subject and the predicate of a sentence. Alright, we're going to look for the subject and predicate, and as a general rule, you're going to put one line under the subject and two lines under the verb. This is traditionally how it's done in American grammar in all grammar books. If you don't have the textbook with you, please pause the video and try the questions on your own before you watch the solutions. Death spares none. Here we're talking about death. Death is personified, and so we would put capital D anywhere it appears in the sentence. We're using it like the name. And spares is the verb here. It means death does not, let anyone go, right? Number two, death, which antiquates antiquities and strikes down the innocent. Okay, whatever that might mean. Death, which does whatever. But what does it do? Okay, this which part is a dependent clause that describes something about death, but it does need to continue on with a verb, and it is missing a verb, so this is not a complete sentence here. Death, the final adventure, armed with no terrors. Also, death is the final adventure, but there is no verb to say that. This is in a positive. Armed with no terrors. Now, are we saying that death, of course that's your subject, are we saying that death armed something, as in put on weapons? In some sentences you could do that. You would say death armed himself with weapons. That would be a sentence, but we don't get that structure. What we get is death armed in the sense of describing him in the state. And how would you know that? How would you know whether this is a verb or not? You need to be familiar with how the words are used. And so just because armed can be a verb doesn't mean that it is a verb, not in that particular sentence. In order to use armed correctly, you have to arm, and it's a transitive verb, which means it needs an object. You don't say the soldier armed. You have to say the soldier armed himself with newest weapons, or the thief armed himself with something. You need to be doing it to an object, and we don't get that, and therefore we have to say that this is a description of death. Death is armed. Right now he is armed with something, but we need to have something more there to complete this sentence. So this is not a sentence. Let no man be called fortunate until he is dead. This is going to be a little confusing for a lot of people because you're looking for the subject and the predicate, so you end up looking for a noun in the sentence in the earlier part, and you find no man and you think this is a subject, but it's not. The whole sentence is an imperative sentence, which is a command sentence, right? When you say let us, let him, let whoever do something, it's a command. You're saying, please allow that person to do something. Let me go home means you need to allow me to do something. And so the verb really is here. The man is actually the object of the let. Who are you going to let? And so the verb is there. Let no man be called whatever. Then who's going to do this letting of this action, the rest of the sentence? It is you that's going to let. And so we say that there is an assumed you here, and that's the subject of the sentence. And this is true for all imperative sentences. And by the way, that's why sometimes you can get a single word sentence. Like we saw the sentence stop, an exclamatory sentence, also an imperative sentence, and stop is a complete sentence because there is a subject. A subject is just not stated, it's an unstated you, and so it's you, stop, and that's what makes it complete. Number two, oh, eloquent, just, and mighty death. This is not really a sentence because you are addressing, this is a personal address, and you're addressing death, you're calling him, but this is not a statement of a subject doing anything or being anything. And so this is not a sentence. As if everyone had meant to put his whole wit in a jest and resolved to live a fool the rest of his dull life, is not a sentence. The way it begins, the as if, tells us that this is a dependent clause, but you have to do something as if something is happening, and the rest of the sentence is all the as if statement. As if he was something something blah blah blah, he did something else. You need that main clause to be a sentence. Next set here, let's look at number 1. Life is made up of marble and mud. What are we talking about? We're talking about life. What about life? Is, I guess we can go with made. Okay, life is made up of whatever, whatever, but this is how life is made. And so we have subject and verb. That is a sentence. It is life near the bone where it is the sweetest. Okay, subject is it, and what's the verb? The verb is it is. Okay, it's different from the first one. The first one has a verb here that is put into a passive voice, and so we needed that be, the to be verb, to make it a passive, that something is done. In the second case, we don't have a main verb that's, you know, that requires the is. Is alone is the verb, so we call this a linking verb. The it equals life is what you're saying. Okay, but it is still a sentence. Those it and is subject and verb, subject and predicate. Varieties, the very spice of life. Variety is the very spice of life. So this is a sentence. Life is just one darn thing after another. Well, this is life, is what we're talking about. What about it? It is something. So that is a sentence. The book that we're following is English Made Simple.